This is the custom tray that we made in the lab for the primary purpose of carrying, control, confining this impression material. This is the final impression now. Final impression making is kind of like a religion. People have very strong emotions about their beliefs of what we should do. There are things way more extensive than what we'll show in this, which I teach. There are also stuff that are techniques that are way less extensive than what I'll show here that I teach. I have other videos you can watch regarding what we could, should, or ought to be doing with literature support. But let's show a basic technique and get into this art of impression making. So first, after disinfecting the tray, after disinfecting the custom tray, the tray is rinsed off and tried in the patient's mouth. Overextensions are visualized by manually manipulating the cheeks and the lips towards the custom tray to ensure that the tray's border does not touch the vestibular tissues and that there's sufficient room for the border molding in PVS or alginate thicknesses. Any overextensions are removed with an acrylic burr in a straight, slow speed handpiece. The posterior paddle seal is marked and the tray is inspected to ensure that the tray goes, far enough back to cover the posterior border. And I have another video for us to watch on the posterior palatal seal. But anyway, border molding or muscle molding is a hallmark of this impressioning technique, and variations in method and philosophy abound. A contemporary approach that replaces the historical use of melting and shaping green stick compound uses a thick, viscous PVS called heavy body as a border molding material. Here in this technique, we're just doing simple additions of green stick compound until we finally use up the whole entire rim, the peripheral rim, in shaping. Just piece by piece, we create the entire form. So PVS always follows the PVS border molding, but alginate or PVS will follow green stick compound, and the PVS is manipulated by the perioral tissues, often with the patient's own masticatory or facial muscle manipulations. While some dentists will utilize the arbitrary manipulation. So now we're going to use adhesives. Alginate or PVS tray adhesive is painted and left to set according to the manufacturer's instructions so that we can get this kind of impression. So that was the first tray fill. We're trying to get a more custom tray. So what I want to show here is that PVS is susceptible to thixotropic shear stress manipulations like that aforementioned stone we had in another video we had just recent to this one. When PVS is stressed, its viscosity decreases. So basically it flows more. Put it in pressure, it's going to flow more. But it has to be done in thinness. So when the wash is pressed by the border molded custom tray, it will cause the PVS to flow into minor anatomy better than a bulk of it would. And the bulk would lessen the shear stress. So we want to get it really thin, and that's why I'm not putting a whole lot of wax spacer. Okay, I do put a full bead around the periphery because we've cut that significantly away. But around the flat intaglio surface, I will go ahead and keep it really thin. What I'm going to do now is wet the surface. Now I'm going to push up and start creating shear stress. And watch, I'm going to listen for air to make sure all the air escapes. And then I'm going to start putting this material under shear stress. See me going side to side? And that'll start washing it into all the tissues. Open real wide, move the coronoid process forward and all the big bulky bones and muscles in the back of the throat. Close into the middle of Poselt's diagram for a long range of motion and move, forward and back, side to side. Now we'll do the perioral tissues, up and down in the labial frenum, the buccal frenums, the fornix areas, to shape it arbitrarily. Okay. Yep, and then we'll just hold that there because that's the most common sore spot area. We'll spend just another second there. Okay. So PVS is required to produce fine detail on a very small scale to meet ADA standards. Low and medium viscosity PVS must be able to reproduce a line as thin as 0.02. So this is a heavy body, and it does a line about 0.075. You'll notice there are some spots here. These are the reasons I don't do occlusal stops in my impressions anymore, because the thinner material allows us to just create our own stops. I'll just go ahead with a slow speed and just kind of grind those stops out now so we can get a good uniformity on the next wash. And that next wash will be something with a very low viscosity, something down to about 0.02. But the funny thing is, no matter how expensive this PVS material is, stone can only record to about 0.05 millimeters of that thinness of a line. So although the low and the medium PVS can record so small, they won't reproduce any better than the stone. So here's our final impression that we're going for. And we will now, I'm going to take this lighter viscosity PVS, and I'm just going to go on the internal portion of the vestibule. I'm not going on the top crest of the vestibule anymore. We've already manipulated that and shaped it. So now it would just be, any addition would just be overextension. And I'm just going to do the 360 degree seal like a suction cup seal. Okay, and This very fine material, once I put it under shear stress, is going to flow very well, and it's going to put a 360-degree seal like a suction cup, like the PPS does on the back. It's going to do it all the way around. Smearing it in shear stress. Good, good, good. Okay. Now that we've got the air out, we've washed this with the wash material. Open wide. The same exact manipulations we did through in our heavy body wash that we did, we're now going to do in our light body wash. Okay. Perioral tissues. Move your jaw side to side. Now the perioral tissues, buccal frenum, labial. Now, what I'm trying to do in 1 minute's time, that's all the time I have in this working time, to capture all the emotions and facial expressions he will do when he's going to, for instance, yell at his kid, suck on a lollipop, smoke a cigarette, have a big gulp. All those manipulations of the mouth and jaws need to be recorded in 60 seconds. So I'm going to be pretty aggressive, and I call this my P90x impression. It's very involved. There are functional impressions which the patients will wear for 24 hours. I'm not doing that in this technique here. We're just using a standard arbitrary impression to get us this. Now, this is a picture. It may look great. However, what I'm going to suggest is the best way to tell if the impression is good is right here. It's trying it in the patient's mouth, pulling out it for stability, support, and retention, and comfort to make sure it meets all those 4 requirements. I'm now going to blow it out instead of pulling it out. The pulling it out will induce more stress on the impression material, and so we'll just push it out just like that, and there's our final impression. Okay, let's go ahead and now make the wax rims.